Hi viewers, welcome to YouTube channel Partial Educational Trust. So now I am going to tell about a story. It's a bedtime story for the kids. సో ఈ స్టోరీ ఇంగ్లీష్లో ఉంటుంది, ఇంగ్లీష్లోనే చదువుతాను. చాలా బ్యూటిఫుల్ స్టోరీ. పిల్లలకి మనం బెడ్ టైంలో కానీ స్టోరీస్ చెప్తే వాళ్ళ మైండ్ని మనం చాలా బాగా ఈజీగా రీడ్ చేయొచ్చు. ఇది నేను చెప్పడం కాదు, జనరల్గా మన బామ్మలు అమ్మమ్మలు మనకు కూడా ఆ ఏజ్లో చిన్న ఉన్నప్పుడు చెప్పేవాళ్ళు. సో ఇప్పుడు కూడా సేమ్ రిపీట్ చేయాలి. పేరెంట్స్ వాళ్ళ టైంని బెడ్ టైంలో కానీ స్టోరీస్ చెప్పేలాగా మంచి ఇన్స్పిరేషన్ స్టోరీస్ కానీ మోరల్ స్టోరీస్ కానీ పిల్లలకి చెప్తే దెల్ డెఫినెట్లీ గెట్ ఇన్ టు వెరీ గుడ్ ట్రాక్ట్ అనమాట. సో అండ్ ఇప్పటి వరకు నేను చెప్పిన స్టోరీస్లో ఇది కూడా చాలా మంచి స్టోరీ విచ్ ఇస్ వెరీ హెల్ప్ఫుల్. స్లీపింగ్ బ్యూటీ ఫెయిరీ టేల్ స్టోరీ ఇది. So yes, we'll just continue now. Yeah. See, long ago in France, there lived a king and queen. More than anything, they longed for a child. At last, to their great happiness, the queen gave birth to a little girl. All the bells in the land were rung with joy. The king and the queen invited all the fairies in the kingdom to the naming party for the baby. And what a party it was! Plates and a silverware of pure gold were set with care before each guest. But one fairy, magnificent, who had left 50 years before and had not been seen in all the time, showed up at the door. Quickly, the king and the queen found a place sitting for the new guest. But alas, the plate and the silverware were not of pure gold. This made the old fairy very angry. Soon it was time for each fairy to give her blessings to the baby. When it came to the magnificent turn, she stood up and pointed her long finger at the sleeping baby girl in the cattle. I declare before all of you, Maleficent called out, that this child on her 16th birthday shall prick her finger on the spindle of spinning wheel and die. Okay. With a whoosh of smoke, the evil fairy vanished. Everyone cried out with alarm, as you can imagine, but one fairy had not yet given her blessing. The king and the queen asked her fairy, whose name was Merryweather, to revise the courtesy. Merryweather shook her head sadly. That was not possible, but she could have softened the curse. On her 16th birthday, she said, when the princess pricks her finger on a spinning wheel, instead of dying, she will fall asleep for 100 years. 100 years, said the queen. After our daughters turn 16, we will not know her anymore. The king ordered every spinning wheel in the kingdom to be brought to the palace and burned. To be extra sure, the princess would not be anywhere near the spinning wheel. He also ordered the fairy Merryweather, along with two other fairies, Flora and Fauna, to take the baby far away. The fairies would raise the child in a cottage deep in the woods. There they would keep her safe until after her 16th birthday. After that day, it would be safe to bring back the princess, who had been named Aurora, to the castle. Aurora grew up knowing no others than the three fairies, whom she knew as her aunts. The animals of the forest were very her friends. The birds and the deers, the chipmunks and the rabbits followed her around as she fed them treats and cooed to them. From the time she was little, Aurora was told she must stay inside the hills that surrounded them. She did not mind that in the least. The woods were wide and deep inside the hills, and there was plenty of rooms for her to play. One day, Aurora came home to the cottage to find her three aunts preparing for a party. "What's going on?" she said. "Tonight we will celebrate your 16th birthday," said Flora. "It is," said Aurora. "That means tomorrow I am going back to the castle." "Yes," said Meriwether. "We have kept you safe from that spinning wheel from 16 years. Soon it will be time for you to take up your royal life as a princess. And the first thing for you will be get married," said Fauna. "Married? Already," said Aurora. "Do you know who I am supposed to marry?" "We do," said Fauna with a wave of her hand. "But there is no need to worry about that. Even if he's a bit strange, some might say a bit horrid, you won't have to spend much time with him after all. And he does come from the fine family," Flora added with a quick smile. "Wait a minute," said Aurora, pulling back. "Why do you say he is a bit or horrid?" "It is best not focus on such things, dear," said Meriwether. "Just do everything your husband tells you to do," said Flora, "and you will be fine." "This is not turning out like I thought," cried Aurora. "How long do I have to stay married?" "For the rest of your life, of course," said Fauna. "No, no, this is all wrong," cried Aurora. She turned away. Then she said in a firm voice, "I would rather break my finger on a spinning wheel and fall asleep for 100 years than have to marry someone I don't want to marry. Maybe by the time I wake up, people won't have to get married if they don't want to." And she ran out of the door. "Dear me," said Meriwether to the other two fairies. "I don't believe that went over very well." Aurora ran deep into the woods where her animal friends lived. A deep hopped beside her. "Along with the rabbits and the chipmunks, we have to get out of here," she said to all of the friends. All of them. Then pointed to the mountains passing. She said, "We will go right through the hills." Soon Aurora came to the road. In the distance was a carriage coming closer to her. As the rider approached, her animal's friends scattered hails. Said the strange, "I am afraid my carriage carried away your pets. May I give you a lift?" Aurora had never seen a man before, but she could not think about that unless she could find a spinning wheel. The very next day, her aunt would take her back to the palace. "Actually," said Aurora to the stranger, "there is something I need a great deal." "What is that?" said the stranger. Hopping out of the carriage, very nicely dressed was he and well mannered too. "A spinning wheel?" said Aurora. "Spinning wheel," said the stranger. "But there are none left in the land. Everyone knows that." "Well, you see," said Aurora, rubbing her hands together, "I have this friend. She needs a spinning wheel in the worst way." Aurora looked directly at the stranger. "It's a matter of life or a death." The stranger looked at Aurora's eyes. At last he said, "I may know of one," he said, "but this needs to stay between you and me." The stranger stepped closer. Not far from her lives an old woman who spun yarn all her life. When the orders came to burn all the spinning wheels, she could not bear to let go of her beloved spinning wheel, since it had been in her family for many years. "She came to me," he said, pointing down the road. "As I am a prince from the next kingdom, she begged me to let her store it was safely, so I put it in the attic room of my castle tower, where no one ever goes until the 16 had passed. She begged me to let her store it away safely, said the princess. Would you take me to your castle tower? Said Aurora. I should not, said the prince. Then after a moment he said, But I will. She stepped on to his carriage. Soon they were at the tower and they both stepped out. The prince said, This is not for you, friend, is it? Thank you for taking me here, said Aurora. I will always remember your kindness. Now, if you please, I must do what I must do. Aurora turned and went up the tower stairs to the very last stair. The door in front of her creaked open. Inside, all was dark and musty. She could barely take a step for all the spiders' web, and pushed them aside and stepped forward. There in a far corner was a spinning wheel. From a small window, she could tell the sun was already setting. I hope this works, she said, before it's too late. This is how the spinning wheel looks. Aurora held out her finger to the tip of the spindle. She pricked her finger on that spindle. One tiny droplet of blood dripped from her finger. At once, Aurora felt dizzy. She fell on to an old dusty velvet blanket that lay on the attic floor and fell into a deep sleep. Moments later, all the others in the castle, servants and the royal alike, fell asleep too. And so did the prince, who was still waiting for her outside the tower. The clean harvest, thrones and vines had sprung up and waved around the castle, so thickly that no human or beast could pass through. For 100 years, Aurora and the others slept. After 100 years have passed, Aurora blinked her eyes awake. Then all others in the castle also woke. Everyone started to do what they have to been doing when they had fallen asleep 100 years before. The throne and the vines around the castle melted away. Aurora stepped down the tower stairs to find the prince. Together they stepped into the prince's carriage. Down the road to the market square, they discovered a whole new world. Bicycles and the streetcars, cameras and street lights, such marvels to be beheld. Perhaps, best of all, they learned that in the strange new time, it was quite all right for young women and men to get to know each other, if that's what they want to do, and even perhaps to fall in love. As Aurora and the prince took each other's hands to explore his wonderful new world together, that is exactly what they want to do. So this is what all about the story. ఇది చాలా మంచి కథ. దీన్ని తెలుగులోకి ట్రాన్స్లేట్ చేసి చెప్తే కానీ పిల్లలకు చాలా బాగా అర్థమవుతుంది. బట్ స్టిల్ ఐ రిక్వెస్ట్ ఆల్ ద పేరెంట్స్ టు టెల్ ఇన్ ఇంగ్లీష్. బెడ్ టైంలో వాళ్ళు పడుకునేటప్పుడు కొద్దో గొప్ప మనం ఇంగ్లీష్లో చెప్పినట్లయితే పిల్లల మైండ్లో చాలా బాగా రిసీవ్ చేసుకుంటారు దాన్ని. ఇంత పెద్ద స్టోరీస్ కాకపోయినా బిట్ స్టోరీస్నైనా వాళ్ళకి చెప్పడానికి ప్రయత్నించండి, వినిపించడానికి ప్రయత్నించండి. సో స్టోరీస్ చాలా వరకు పిల్లల మైండ్లోకి వెళ్తాయి, వాళ్ళు దాన్ని ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేయడానికి కూడా ట్రై చేస్తారు. మంచి మంచి కథలను వినిపించండి పేరెంట్స్. థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్ ఫర్ వాచింగ్ దిస్ వీడియో. Catch you soon with other videos.